Well, good morning, 5th grade. This is your art video for Project 19, the boats. And I'm getting excited about this because I don't get to do art very often, but I'll get to in this one. Now you notice that on your instructions here, you've got the procedure, which is at the bottom. It says, follow the drawings on page 50, which is on the back side, step by step. Lightly sketching basic shapes or the basic shape of one or more boats on construction paper. Draw at least one large and one small boat. Now what I want you to do, so pay close attention to this, is I want you to draw one of each boat. So let me get my glasses here. So draw one of each boat. Now the important part, and it says here to cut out the boats and glue them to the background using the perspective to balance your picture. All right, now it says also draw waves and add other details. Now, in your background picture that you were supposed to do, the watercolor paint, which I think, well, I've already shown you that one before. I've got mine right here. This is the one that we had, and so that one is the one that you're supposed to glue the picture of the boat onto. You can choose one of those boats and glue it on there, and then send me a picture of it. And then but if you did not do the background, or if you're going to use a pass for that, which you're allowed to use one pass for art per quarter, and you can do that. Now let's look at and follow the details. Now the problem, the issue here with drawing boats is not drawing too heavily when you're first doing the outline of it, and so. It's good to have a ruler if you have one, because you can get a straighter line. So I would suggest using a ruler if you have one, and we call it a straight edge, an edge that is straight, obviously. That's one way to do it. And so I'm going to do this, but I'm going to draw a very light line, and that's what I've done there. Now you can do this by hand. It doesn't have to be with a ruler. If you have a steady hand, you'd have to, it does make it easier though to do it this way. But if you wanted to just, draw your line that way, and it would be, just makes it a little bit darker when you do that. And so you want to have a light line so that you can erase it afterward. Now, the next thing is to draw a rectangle in there, and so I'm going to do that myself. This is the bottom part of the boat, is the idea there. And so I'm going to use the straight edge again and draw that across there. Okay, so this is the bottom part of our sailboat now. Now, it says to erase. Now, first thing you want to do is you want to draw the other parts of your boat first, okay? And so, in fact, let's try this. Let's try to erase it first, but leave a little bit of an image there so you can kind of see what you're doing. So I'll grab my eraser. And a white eraser really works well, because a white eraser doesn't leave any kind of marks behind, generally speaking. And so I've got my white eraser, and so I'm going to erase lightly. I'll leave a little bit of the image there for right now, so that I can kind of do my little curves and things. So now here's where I can get a little bit darker. And I see that, and so I see here also, now I'm making mine a little smaller. Now you're going to make certain lines, and you're just going to get the general idea of where you're going to be. And it's, in this particular one, it's got a little curve, the point of the boat there. And then we've got the bottom here, and so this is the bottom of the boat. And you can see it's starting to take shape now a little bit. If you have your eraser, you can erase those extra lines that you may have made in there. All right. Now, anytime you need to stop to do this is fine, but you notice that my tip and my point of the, I don't know if you can see that, but the point of the mast for the sailboat is, I want to make it straight. Now, it looks like my triangle is a little bit off, and that's fine, because where my boat is, I can change that. I don't need to make it exactly perfect, but certainly I can make the mast on my own like that, as you can see. Now I've gone over my line, so I'm going to erase that little bit of extra that I have there. and I'll darken in everything and kind of blend it, because the mast is inside the boat, it's not outside the boat, and so that's why that's important. Now the bottom, what's called the boom of the mast, I mean the boom of the sail, should come out just a little bit past. Okay, and so we have, now they made it a little thinner, so I'm going to erase that second line. I should have done it from the other direction. Now that I've done it, so I'll do it from this side so that I can see where my other line is, and I can make it a very thin line then. Alright, and so I've got this, and I've got this. This is my boom then. This is the bottom part of where the sail is going to be connected, to where the sail is going to be connected. And then you've got, it's starting to take shape now. You can see a little bit more of it. This line here is a little bit in the way, so I'm going to erase that as well. And I'll redraw my the bottom part of my boom. See how it doesn't look quite as good with the without a straight edge. So I'm going to erase that again and make sure everything is as neat as possible. And so I'm going to redraw this line right here. You can see that it's a little bit off. All right, and then I'm going to redraw this line here so that it's perfect and I can see it well. All right, I'll take this one down there. So that one's going to be straight as well. All right, now I've got my boom is completed. Now it's the next thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit of water at the bottom, and so all right, you get a little bit of water now. You can see that boat's in the water. I'm going to add some sails, and you notice that at the top here there's a flag. Let's do that flag first. Why? Because the flag, it's a thin flag, but it also and so I made mine a little bit different, but now it gives me an idea of where the top of my sail should go. And so I'll start at the point here, and I'll make a long curve to about that point right there. And so that curve, so now I can darken a little bit. All right, and you notice that the sail is not completely connected. There's connected at this point and at this point, and so we'll make a little curved line at the bottom. Now mine's not quite the way I want it, and not quite the way the picture is, so I'll erase it and do it again. Now, some of you that are really good at art, you probably won't make a mistake on that the first time, but everybody makes mistakes in some points. All right, so we have this part of the sail. You notice that on the bottom it's not connected to the mast either, and so we're going to put a little bit of a curve up to the point where we're supposed to be. All right, so now there's my mainsail. All right, actually that might be my other, not the mainsail, but then you notice that this one comes here to the front and connects to the front of the boat, front of the sailboat there. And sometimes you have to turn it a different direction, and so I'm going to do that, and it's coming to the front there. And you notice that where it's connected, at the front of that. Now I didn't connect it in the right place, so I'm going to redo it one more time so I can connect to the point. And let me darken this, the top of the boat there, and got my front end, the bow, and the stern of the ship. And then I'm going to do this. Okay. And then I've got that other curve here that I'm going to put up to the, and it sort of almost goes straight up before it starts curving in. It's got a pretty wide curve. All right. And then we'll do the same thing for the inside line. And this one goes down a little bit more, although it still comes in a good bit, but it connects at the same place where that sail is. Now you got your sails, and so you see it's coming into shape. Not quite exactly the way that is, but this is pretty good. And no, I'm not grading myself, but it's not too bad. one thing that I never got to do when I was in school really very often was art. It was mostly craft type of things. But this is the one of the reasons I have art in classes, because I think that having the opportunity to actually do something that you can see, that's not going to that you can have a good result from. And so there we have our sailboat is complete. All right, well, let's do our motorboat next. That one seems to be a pretty easy one, and so we'll you guys have a paper in there, and I would suggest not necessarily doing it. You can do the final on that paper once you practice some, and I wouldn't, if you don't need practice, that's fine. I'm going to make my bottom of my motorboat here, and I'll make the top of my motorboat. I should have done that. Well, the bottom's okay to do dark, but the top one, you don't want it completely dark yet, because you still have to make the, I'm trying to see where would be a good point there and there. You still have to make the top part, and this is going to be erased, and so we'll make that about the same distance as the other one. Okay, and then I'll make my lines here. You know, there's no boat that is exactly rectangular. I guess the arc might have been in a sense, but see, now I've gone past, but that's okay, I can erase. So now it says the next step is I'm going to draw my curves in first. Okay, so before I do my erasing, I'm going to start drawing it. It looks like something like this. Okay, and so now I've got that part, and then there's also a part here, and then I'm going to make my other curve. All right, and so I like that curve better than I did the other one, but the other one I can darken now, and then I'll make a straight edge darker on the top there. All right. So now I've got that top part. I can erase those lines around it. It's nice if you have a corner that you can erase with, so you can get right next to it. White erases, again, I said, really do work much better because of the lack of color in it, and so that means there's no color erasure marks that you're going to have there. So now you see I've done my second part, or my first part, the top part there. Now I'm going to do the bottom here. And you notice that on the bottom here, they've lifted up the boat a little bit, put it at an angle. The reason is because it's going to be sitting on water, which you're going to see in that next one. But we'll go ahead and make, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it all the way to the front here. And so I'm going to start at that corner, and I'm going to just have a slight increase in height. Okay, like that. And so that slight increase, but then I'm going to the bow of my ship, and so I'm going to do my curve up there. And right at the end, I'm turning it, and so you can see it's starting to take shape now as a motorboat of some time. On the end here, though, of course, it's curved, as boats are. So that's going to be that part, and then this part to the front, I mean to the cabin in the ship, right there. So now I've got a pretty good shape on my ship. This part is going to stay here in the middle. It's going to be darker, so I can go ahead and do this whole top deck and darken it. Okay, and darken it a little bit more there. All right. So now I've got that, and I'm going to erase these marks on the outside. I don't need any more. And now my ship is really starting to take shape. I look like I have an anchor stuck on the front there. Let's see here if I can get rid of that. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to get rid of this bottom line. Now I don't mind if I erase my other line, because now I've kind of gotten it. And the end here, I can always go back and go over those and redo them again, so that I can make sure that I have everything erased as well as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect, of course, because you're just sketching. It really is what you're doing here. Sketching allows you the opportunity to to fix mistakes, if you want to call them that. All right, so there we go. So we got that part of the boat. I'm going to fix my curved part of the boat here. All right, so now I've got that part down. It's really taking shape now. And I'm going to put a couple of other things on there. The easy things are the antenna. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to make the antenna a little bit curved, because in the wind, as it's moving, it would have that that sense of the wind, you know, doing it. And then I'm gonna, though the solid part of it, I'm gonna put my window here, and that's gonna stay straight. That's not gonna curve in the wind, of course. And so now I've got to put, and I'm going to use it where I can see that line so I can make sure it's balanced. And I'm going to put it with a thin line. And so then on the bottom, the same thing. Remember, you can always go back and erase, and if you make a mistake. And then I'm going to connect this part. And because of the design of the boat, it's got a little bit of curve on that window, which kind of makes sense there. It's following the curve here is what it's doing. It's kind of repeating it. And then we've got on the back, I'm going to do the waves first. The reason I'm doing the waves first is because you see the waves block part of the motor back there at the motorboat. And so I'm going to start here. This is going to be the more tricky one. Mainly because having to go, and you can see where this is sort of like making a flame, but it's going under, and then it's coming back above, and then it's going under, and then it's coming back above again. You know, I think that'll work. And so I'm going to do, this one's going to be above completely, and so you can see that it follows and gets to the point there. Now, the part where the water is has to be erased, and so I'm going to erase the inside of my boat. Now, it's okay if you erase what you just drew, because you can always draw that back in, but you've got to get rid of that boat part, because otherwise it doesn't appear correctly. And so you'll see once I get this fixed that where the boat can be seen here in the middle, where the water is coming above, it's sort of being sprayed out, but it can't be seen where the water is. And so now I'm going to draw my motor, and my motor is curved a little bit. All right, you've got that, and it is thicker here because that's where the motor is attached to the thing, but then you've got that part where the blade, the propeller, is attached to it that goes down into the water that you can't see here. So here you have this boat now. By the way, so if you decide to put this on your picture and send it to me, when you cut them out, you're going to have to cut them out. Probably the easiest one to do is probably going to be I say your rowboat, but it might be this one. But you've got to cut out everything where the windows are. You've got to cut that out so that it goes through, so you can see the water through it on the other side. I'll maybe, if you have a knife to do that, that makes it easiest, is an X-Acto blade. That would make it easiest, but we're not going to worry about that right now. That's the least important. So this is done. Now you've got the rowboat. Now the rowboat starts off with what we call an ellipse. Okay, an ellipse. Now I've got to fix this to make it the proper shape, as much of a proper shape as possible. So I'll keep doing this curve till I get that ellipse in there, and I think I've pretty much gotten it now. So you see that even though I had some wild curves in there, so now what I can do is I can sort of adjust it, and I think what I need to do is I need to come down a little bit more on this one. Now that I can see where my ellipse is, or have a better sense of it, and so now I can sort of and so you see, just going over it a couple of times, now you kind of get the idea of where my ellipse is. So I can erase things around it, but the whole idea of that ellipse is only the sort of the just to give you an idea. It's not going to be really a part of the boat. It is sort of part, this curve is part of the rowboat part, the bottom of it, but not much of it. And so we'll start at this point. We'll put our boat, the corner of the boat there on a line. We'll put, oops, a little bit down there. We'll put this part. We'll go out and we'll curve to the point, and then we're going to come, and I think I'm going to extend that a little bit just because I think my ellipse is a little bit bigger than what the one in the picture is. Okay, and that'll give me an opportunity now to bring the boat along the curve of the ellipse. And so you see there, now it's following the curve of the ellipse. So I've got that side of the boat, of the rowboat there. I've got another one, and you see that in the corner here is where one of the corners are of the boat. And so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to curve it down. Okay, and then I'm going to straight line, because this is a line you can see actually on the back of the boat, and it would be straight like that. Now, I think I'm probably, as far as my perspective, I think I'm a little bit too curved there, although it's not too far off. But I'm going to fix that, and then I'm going to draw a straight line from here to there. And then from here, now I've got a straight line to my bow, basically. And so I'm going to hand draw it. I'm not going to use the straight edge on this. Not too bad, considering it was hand drawn. All right, so now I've got the outside of my boat. I can erase these inside lines, and that helps me to get my basic boat. Now you can really see the boat. You can see it's good side perspective of it, and got all my light lines erased. All right, now I've got to draw the places to sit. If you've ever been in a rowboat, you know that there are places to sit there. I think that I can hand draw this. It doesn't go all the way. If you notice, it doesn't go all the way up. So I'm gonna draw that line first, that curved line. Okay, that's the edge that's sitting against the boat. And you notice the perspective. You see how it's wider down here than it is over here? Because you're looking at it from the side farther away, it's going to be a little bit thinner. So I'll make it so that the curves of these are not quite the same angle. And so you can see that, and then I go down. I've got my lines there. Okay, not quite the same as that one. I could probably use it a little bit more in the other direction. So I'm going to put it a little bit more. You see, I made a mistake of making my line too dark to begin with. If I made it lighter, then it would have been easier. Oh, my eraser is coming apart here, but that's okay, because then I can make another corner. But you can kind of see, all right, I can still, oops, I accidentally made a mark with my pencil when I was erasing. But you can see, you can still see your lines, and so you can put that, and you can put that back. And then I'm going to make my line a little bit more that direction. That's what I was trying to do. And then a little bit of curve, then a little bit of like that, and then straight down and like that. That one's a little bit better. I like that one better. So you can see that that would be a place to sit. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here. And you got to remember that you've got to have room for your oar to fit in here. So we're going to put this. Okay. And then it's going to sit around the same. You see where it hits the same. It's going down a little bit. Got my other curve, and it's coming back a little wider there again, and then back this way. All right, so now I see the two places where I'm sitting. Now, before I put my water in this time, I'm going to put, because the oars are in the water, I'm going to make sure that my oars are first. And so that's going to take a little bit of work here. And in this one, since the oar is coming down this way, it's easier to draw down than it is to draw across. Now, once you get better at it, it's, you'll probably make it just as easy either way. But in drawing that, what I'll do is I will then I'll get my straight edge. And I think that would be helpful in this particular case, because then I can really mark exactly where I want it. Now you notice that the edge of the paddle comes right here, and so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw. It's going to be in the water, all right, and so then I'm going to draw the rest, the other side of the stick, I mean of the oar, the handle, right here, all right. So I've got one edge. Now, because the oar is solid, technically you wouldn't see the edge of the boat there, and so you notice that they erased that. So I can, now that I've erased that, I can fix that by redrawing the lines. Alright, so now that I've done that, and you see that the boat doesn't come across, so the line's oar sitting in front of it. Same thing down here. Alright, and same thing here. So now it gives you, that's a much better perspective of it. And then we're going to put our oars in the water, so to speak. Some of these are much, I think it looks better if you freehand it, although you may have to play with it to make it look better, because you can see that it's not exactly square, or it's not exactly equal in perspective, in the sense that this side should equal this side. Now you can have curved ones, and so that's going to be, I'm going to be fine with that. It's not thin like the other one, but I'm okay with that. That's not going to be as big of a deal. But now that I've gotten that part, now I'm going to go and do my other oar, which would sit around the same area. You notice what they didn't do. Now these are loose oars apparently, but sometimes in rowboats they'll have a place where they put them so that you can row the boat backwards. But in this case they didn't, and so I'm going to go ahead and draw my two lines. Now where I have my oar here, that's where I want it to come out here. So I'm going to do that. All right, I'll make my curved line, and then I'm going to put it back this way, okay? Now, that's okay the way it is, but that's going to help me to know where my oar should come out here. So I'm going to go right to the middle, all right, and I'm going to draw my two lines for that up to the boat. Because this is behind the boat, then obviously you see the boat on that part. But now you can see that that oar generally looks the same direction, the stick, as the bottom of the oar. All right, now I can draw my water, because now I know where the oar is. I don't draw the water because the oar is above the water, and so I'm going to do something that's, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly like in the book, but your water should be pretty much straight across. Now you see I'm curving it around the boat, and I shouldn't be doing that. I should make it straight across, because the water isn't affected by anything else. I mean, sometimes it's a little affected by the boat if you look up close especially, but I'm going to make it so that the water is straight across. And then when I get to, because it's in my boat, I'm going to have to erase those parts that's under the boat. But when I get to my oar, the water is going to stop. Now I'm imagining it's going to be continuing up here and then coming across. Now that's fairly straight. I look at this and it's not quite as straight. I probably could bring this part down a little bit, so I will, since I can. And so I'll bring this, and so I'll stop there and I'll bring it here, and that should give me a good sense of where the good idea. It looks like a good picture of where the water is. And so I'm going to then go back, and I have to erase the parts of the boat that I can no longer see because it's under the water. And you've got to remember those things when you're drawing something in order to give a proper picture of what it is you're trying to draw. Now, in this case, it's actually not a bad idea to have those light erasure marks, because it's as if you can see it through the water. Now this one I'm not going to erase because that's above the water. You can see the wave goes below it. So I'll do this one here, that line where the water is, if I can get to it. Now I can always draw back what I'm missing, and I will in this particular case. So I'll draw my line there again. All right, and so there we are. And we have a picture of your 3 different boats. And you turn that page in. Make sure you put your name on it because that seems to be a difficulty people have. But you did that. That would be the way you would do it. I'll be able to tell if you follow directions. Remember, 30 points for following directions. I'll know because I'll see these erasure marks. Okay, I'll have a sense of that. All right? Well, that's it. I hope you have a good day, 5th grade, and I hope you enjoy doing that this week. Don't forget to use that art paper to do it. Bye.